So I'm actually in the camp that the government doesn't like small businesses. And the reason why I say that is because they make the process of getting government contracts so complicated, so convoluted, that it's almost anti-small business in a sense that effectively when they've given you 90 plus different .gov websites that you have to go through and navigate in order to find bid opportunities, they are giving you hundreds of agencies that say, go to my website, register here. I'm starting to believe that they don't like small businesses. When you look at some of the database that you have to register in to actually qualify for these opportunities, like for example, if you look at NICO, it's a terrible website. If you look at DIBS, it's horrible, the website. And when you look at these things, I mean, why can't these things be more like Amazon? I mean, when I go on Amazon, I buy stuff, right? Amazon tells me my last purchases. They also tell me the related items to my purchases. I mean, the algorithms already know, like they can anticipate what I want to buy. Like if you bought shaving cream, they'll say, okay, 3 weeks from later, you might want to buy more shaving cream. If you bought razors, they're like, hey, would you like to order razors every month because you use the razors? I don't understand how we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars and we can't figure out how to make intuitive websites and platforms that allow us to easily navigate without buying some $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 system. I mean, the Deltech platform is horrible. Have you looked at it? And it's super expensive. It's not affordable for the regular small business. And by the way, for anybody who out here has it, it's written in like C++ coding language. So it's not even updated to the latest and greatest aesthetically pleasing software tools. And then on top of that, they based on the size of your company. Who sells software based on the size of your company? Unless you're like an Oracle and you're selling enterprise software. But if you're targeting small and medium-sized business community, this is not conducive to helping the industrial base. So I am convinced that they don't want to help the industrial base. They don't want to help small businesses. In fact, I'm going to go a step further. So they don't even like us in this particular character, in this particular market, because what I've heard from different government people. Remember, I've interviewed over 300 guests on my podcast, and I've had people tell me, hey, small businesses, you should be advocating for yourself. Like when you get a win, you should post it, right? And it's interesting. And I go, well, why should we do that? And again, this was someone that was the former head of small business for a major DoD agency. And she said, because the stigma behind small businesses is that they underperform and they don't do well and they don't deliver and all this stuff. That means they don't like us. Like where did that come from? Where did that stigma come from that people would automatically presume that we're going to offer lesser services, lesser quality, less value to the customer? And so for me, if that is a prevailing theme within government, that means to me they don't like us. Now, again, you can't say 100%, right? Because, I mean, nothing's 100%. But the fact that our numbers continue to decline over 2 decades and no one has an answer, like no one has a solution for how to fix this problem, tells me that they don't care, right? And so when someone doesn't care, doesn't that mean, right, we can extrapolate, that means they don't like you, right? So for example, you might argue with your brother and sister, you might argue with your spouse or argue with somebody in a relationship. That's because you care. But people that you don't care about, you just kind of like walk away and like, look, I don't really care what happens to that person. I'm indifferent. But when you actually care, right, then it's emotional. Your emotions are tied to it. And you're like, right, it's kind of like what they say, you're blinded by love and those things. So when you actually care, you're emotionally attached to these things and you want to see different outcomes, right? So you want the person to be better. You don't want your person to be on drugs. You don't want them on the corner. You don't want your cousin prostituting. You want better for them, right? And so for me, in my opinion, if they truly care, they could easily reverse this trend and create more opportunities for small business. But there hasn't been that will, right? And so for me, it all starts with a will. And so it's very easy to say to you, well, Eric, no, they're trying and they're doing the best they can, but this person's in office and this person, sure. But we want to bomb somebody, we got no problem bombing people. When we want to create vehicles and opportunities for the new darlings of the particular space, like the Anderolls, who just came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden now they've done 1.5 billion with a B dollars in contracts. We want to create new swim lanes for people like OpenAI. We've got no problem doing that. Just as easy as we could do that, we could go and do something for small businesses, but the will does not exist. And I'm going to attribute that to both parties. I'm going to say the will doesn't exist. The previous administrations had the opportunity to create more opportunities, and I'm not saying that they didn't, right? And so we'll talk about that, what it looks like. So the optics were there where, yes, overall, last administration spent $183 billion with small businesses, but I'm going to break down those stats and what really trickled down to people, because from what I know and what I understand about these programs, effectively, when you start taking and putting in Native Americans and tribes, and then you start throwing in joint ventures with large companies, the numbers really are skewed. I get it. There was a small businesses that got some benefit, but a lot of times what's happening with people that look like us is we ultimately become the pass-throughs of these opportunities. And so if you've got a joint venture with a large company, and let's say it's $100 million, right? And essentially they can do 80% based on the way that the law works. If we get 20% of $100 million, then we got the $20 million, right? Now, effectively, we still don't even get that, because a lot of times we don't have the capacity and put the people on our payroll. And so we're just moving people from their employer base to our employer base and things like that to help make the numbers. And so we really don't get to keep all of that. So let's just say, for example, out of the 100 million, we do 20 million. Out of the 20 million, we get 5 million. But out of the 5 million, we're talking about, overhead and expenses and things like that. We make, let's say we keep $2 million. Generously, we're going to say generously $2 million. Guess what? The government gets to take credit for the entire $100 million that went to help small businesses. So what really happened here, right? And this is the story that's not being told. And this is the reason why, if in fact the programs work the way they are, we'd have many more minority multi-millionaires, deca-millionaires, 100-plus millionaires that exist to this day. The reason why we can count all of the minority billionaires is because the things that they say are doing are not happening the way that they proclaim them or the way they lay them out. Again, unfortunately, I myself have also been participant in this, because I did not necessarily, even though I've said it to people, I haven't said it in this way to get people to wake up. And so what I'm wanting the people to do is wake up and say, look, this system was not designed for you. However, that doesn't mean you cannot benefit from the system. I'm actually happy that this system was not designed for you, because it means that the smart people like myself will rise to the top, and everyone else will continue to struggle and continue to eat crumbs and to continue to really just make a living. And if you tack in inflation the way things are going, you're barely getting by. So at the end of the day, this really is a program designed for people who are highly intelligent and who could figure out how to maneuver in this complex matrix of systems to be able to win. So again, I just want to say that because I think a lot of times we've been sugarcoating things, and it's not fair to you. It's not fair to everybody out here. Personally, I think everyone should go out and just get a job. It'd be a lot easier, and we'll talk about that in some upcoming content. But I mean, I just think it'd be easier for most people just want to get a job instead of focusing on doing government contracts.